Good day, everyone. I hope you are doing very good today. I am Michael Angelo Jovinus, and welcome to my pre-recorded discussion for the topic Foundations of Curriculum, an overview of curriculum development, specifically focused on the philosophical foundations. So let us all first set the objectives for this discussion. At the end of the lesson or the discussion, the students shall be able to identify the rigors of the philosophical foundations in the development of a best fit curriculum for the skills, differentiate each philosophical foundations by understanding their uniqueness, and for attitude or effective, promote the value of each philosophical foundations as a pre-service teacher. So, let us now begin with our introductory phase. So, based upon fundamental beliefs that arise from one's philosophy of education, curricular decisions involve consideration of several topics and issues. Precisely for this reason, we consider philosophy one of the major foundation areas in the curriculum. In essence, a philosophy of education influences and to a large extent determines our educational decisions and alternatives. Those who are responsible for curricular decisions, therefore, should be clear about what they believe. Here we'll look and discuss the following four major philosophical positions that have hitherto influenced curriculum development, and these are the idealism, the realism, pragmatism, and lastly, existentialism. So let's first set our discussion to idealism. The doctrine of idealism suggests that matter is an illusion and that reality is that which exists mentally. It emphasizes moral and spiritual reality as the chief explanation of the world and considers moral values absolute, timeless, and universal. If we apply this view to education, that would be the implications for the role of the teachers in the education. And obviously, teachers would be acting as the role models of enduring values. And the school must be highly structured and ought to advocate only those ideas that demonstrate enduring values, and that the materials used for instruction also therefore would center on broad ideas, particularly those contained in great works of literature and or scriptures. So that's for idealism. Now let's proceed to realism. Realist considers education a matter of reality rather than speculation. Application, the paramount responsibility of the teacher then is to impart the learners the knowledge about the world that they live in. What scholars of various disciplines have discovered about the world constitutes to this knowledge. However, like the idealist, the realist too stressed that education should reflect permanent and enduring values that have been handed down through generations, but only to the extent that they do not interfere with the study of particular disciplines. So now let's proceed to the third one, which is the pragmatism. In contrast to the traditional philosophies such as the idealism and the realism, which by the way are teacher-centered, pragmatism gives importance to change processes and relativity, as it suggests that the value of an idea lies in its actual consequences. Interesting. The actual consequences are related to those aims that focus on practical aspects in teaching and learning, according to Nash in 1995. According to pragmatists, learning occurs as the person engages in transacting with the environment or in interacting with the world around them. Basic to this interaction is the nature of change, of course, and so in this sense, whatever values and ideas are upheld currently would be considered tentative, since further social development must refine or change them. Now, this is a really interesting philosophy for me. Because, for instance, at a particular period of time, it was generally believed that the earth was flat, which was subsequently disproved through scientific research. And that is a very sound explanation or evident to this philosophical foundation or theory. So, according to pragmatists, it should also be planned that it teaches the learner how to think critically rather than what to think. Teaching should be therefore more exploratory in nature than explanatory. Now let's proceed to the fourth one, which is existentialism. This doctrine emphasizes that there are no values outside human beings, and thus suggests that human beings should have the freedom to make choices and then be responsible for the consequences of those actions or choices. According to this philosophy, learners should be put into a number of choice-making situations, such as learners should be given the freedom, to choose what to study, and it emphasizes that education must center on the perceptions and feelings of the individual in order to facilitate understanding of personal reactions and responses to life situation. Now, this is vividly and rampantly seen in the educational setting right now, specifically for the senior high school, because the students are given the freedom to choose whatever track or strand they wanted to diverge themselves into, such as also in the college or in the university. Since life is based upon personal meanings, the nature of education, the essentialist would argue, should be largely determined by the learner. Individual learners should not be forced into predetermined programs of study, as what I have said earlier. Now, the students are given the freedom to choose according to their passion, interest, capabilities, skills, and likes. Whatever the learners feel he or she must learn should be respected and facilitated by the system. So now let's proceed to the educational philosophies. Although aspects of educational philosophy can be derived or are stemmed from the roots of idealism, realism, pragmatism, and existentialism, a common approach is to provide a pattern of educational philosophies which derives from the major schools of philosophy. Now let's first proceed to the first type of educational philosophy, which is the perennialism. The perennialism advocates the permanency of knowledge that has stood the test of time and values that have moral and spiritual basis. The underlying idea is that education is constant, absolute, and universal. Obviously, perennialism in education is born of idealism in general philosophy. The curriculum of the perennialist is subject-centered. It draws heavily on defined disciplines or logically organized bodies of content, but it emphasizes teaching, learning languages, literature, science, and the arts. Now let's proceed to progressivism. Progressivism. This emerged as a protest against perennialist thinking in education. It was considered a contemporary reformist movement in educational, social, and political affairs during the 1920s and up till the 30s. According to progressivists, thought and skills are tools of learning that includes problem-solving methods and scientific inquiry. Essentialism, the third one. This philosophy is rooted partly in idealism and partly in realism. Evolved mainly as a critique of progressive thought in education, yet the proponents of essentialism do not totally reject the progressive methods, as they do believe that education should prepare the learner to adjust to a changing society, and that is true. Thus, in essentialism, learning should consist in mastering the subject matter that reflects currently available knowledge in various disciplines, and teachers play a very high directive role by disseminating information to students. Now, let us include humanism. In the humanistic approach, a teacher would allow students to learn by their own free will and desire for knowledge, since humanists believe that the desire to learn is innate and aimed towards the ultimate goal of self-actualization. Because yes, it's true that it is actually in us that we have a thirst and a hunger to learn things and to give answer to the queries that we have in our mind. Now let's proceed to the Reconstructionism. It views education as a means of reconstructing society. The Reconstructionists believe that as school or college is attended by virtually all youth, it must be used as a means to shape the attitudes and values of each generation. As a result, when the youth become adults, they will share certain common values, and thus the society will have reshaped itself. If we are unclear about our philosophy of education, our curriculum plans and teaching procedures will tend to be inconsistent, of course, and confused as well. This being so, we should be aware of the fact that development and awareness of a personal philosophy of education is crucial, or a big part of our professional responsibility. Further, we need to be constantly open to new ideas and insight that may lead to a revision or refinement of our philosophies. And our position should be no single philosophy, old or new, should serve as the exclusive guide for making decisions about the curriculum. We must be flexible and open-minded. What we as a curriculum specialists need to do is to adapt an eclectic approach in which there is no emphasis on the extremes of subject matter or socio-psychological development, excellence, or quality. That's the end of my pre-recorded discussion. I hope you've learned a lot. Thank you so much, and God bless us all.